You step on it every day. Maybe it's grass or concrete, maybe cold kitchen tiles or the warm dust of a summer trail. But beneath all of it, something waits, something alive, something old, something you've always been connected to, long before you had a name. And I need to tell you this because what's beneath us, we've forgotten. My garden isn't perfect, but it's where stories unfold, where the wind knows your name, where the sun doesn't just shine, it listens. Everything in that space speaks. The breeze, the rain, the light, everything, except the ground. The soil doesn't speak. It doesn't shimmer. It doesn't interrupt, but it's there, beneath the roots, beneath the rituals, beneath the life we think we built ourselves, waiting. Isn't that strange? That the thing we need most, the thing holding us together, is the one we never look at? This isn't just about dirt. It's about something deeper. A mind in the silence. A force building and unbuilding civilizations under our feet. One that could decide how our story ends. So stay with me. Let's go beneath the surface, past the grass, past the roots, past everything we thought was lifeless. And down there, I'll show you something that might change how you walk through the world forever. We like to separate things: land, water, air, fire, 4 elements, 4 boxes, ancient symbols we still carry. But one of them, the one we call Earth, doesn't just belong to one category. It holds them all. Soil isn't just ground. It breathes air. It drinks water. It remembers fire. It's made from broken stone and fallen life, compressed into something that holds more life than the forests above it. And yet, we call it dirt. Something to sweep away. But this is the interface of the planet, the place where everything meets: root and rock, breath and decay, sky and seed. Science calls it the pedosphere, a layer where the atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, and biosphere all come together. It's not a surface, it's a hinge. It holds the whole system. The 17th century naturalist John Evelyn called soil the receiver of celestial influences. He saw the sun, the rain, the wind, all pouring into the ground and becoming something new. Maybe he was right. Maybe soil doesn't just support life. Maybe it transforms it. Light into food, death into roots, time into nourishment. And if that's true, then soil isn't just where things grow. It's where meaning grows too. Soil isn't just matter, it's a body, with texture, with weight, with memory. If you've ever sunk your fingers into fresh earth, you know the feeling. Cool, damp, alive. That's not just dirt. That's the past, softened, broken, recycled, rock, leaf, bone, shell, all pressed together into something that carries us now. Soil doesn't look the same everywhere. In the desert, it's light and thirsty. In the rainforest, thin and ancient. In the grasslands, deep and generous. Each color, each grain, each scent, it all tells you where you are and what the earth has survived to become. But there's more than surface. Beneath your feet are layers, horizons stacked like pages in a buried book. The top holds roots and life. Below that, a quiet architecture, minerals, clay, carbon ghosts. And then, the illuviated horizon. A layer so pale, so washed out, it feels almost forgotten. Illuviated means emptied, stripped by time, rinsed by centuries. But even emptiness has a purpose. It holds the structure for everything above it. Soil doesn't just support life, it's made of life. It doesn't just contain history, it is history. And maybe that's what we've forgotten most. Beneath everything we build, everything we believe is stable, there's a kingdom. Not one of castles, not of gold, but of silence. A living world that doesn't need the sun, or eyes, or names. More than half of all land biodiversity lives underground. In 1 teaspoon of healthy soil, there are more organisms than people on the planet. Bacteria, fungi, nematodes, collembolans, protozoa, rotifers, mites, and yes, the worm. They're not just there, they're working, constantly, recycling, digesting, building the world above from the world that fell below. The fungi, they're the communicators. Their mycelial threads stretch for miles, forming a vast living network. Trees use it to warn each other, to share resources, to grieve. The forest doesn't stand alone, it's wired. And the tardigrades, they're not just microscopic, they're immortal. They've survived space, radiation, boiling heat, freezing void. They're still down there, in places we can't reach, waiting. And then there's the collembolan, tiny, curious, attracted to cheese. Not everything underground is serious, but everything down there matters. We've barely begun to understand it, but whether we do or not, it continues, tunneling, spinning, holding the planet together one breathless layer at a time. We rarely think about worms, and when we do, it's usually with disgust, small, blind, low. But maybe that's the problem. We expect intelligence to look like us, to speak, to shine, to demand attention. In 1881, Charles Darwin published his final book. Not about evolution, not about species or fossils. It was about earthworms. He spent years watching them, noticing how they chose certain leaves, tested textures, preferred patterns. They weren't random. They were selective, purposeful. He wondered, do they think? Do they feel? Their skin, he said, was like a tongue, sensitive, discerning, a way of knowing the world. And maybe you're thinking, that's not intelligence, that's instinct. But is there really such a clear line? If a worm can judge, choose, adapt, isn't that thought? In its own form, a single handful of living soil holds thousands of worms, tunneling, mixing, breathing life into the earth. Without them, plants die, forests thin, ecosystems unravel. They've shaped this planet longer than we've existed, and yet they ask for nothing, no credit, no monument, no noise, just space to do the work. So maybe the question isn't, do worms have minds? Maybe it's this. Why do we ignore the minds that don't look like ours? There's a stone in my garden, small, smooth, easy to miss. Beneath it rests a body. He wasn't just a cat, he was a presence. The kind that curled into silence with you, who waited at doors, who knew when you were breaking, and didn't leave. When he died, I didn't want to let go, but I did. I dug a hole. I placed him in the earth, and the earth took him in. The stone stayed, the ground settled, and slowly, life continued. We don't bury to forget. We bury to remember. Because the soil doesn't erase, it transforms. It takes loss and turns it into structure, into roots, into new life, into meaning. I've seen flowers bloom where he was laid, flowers I never planted. And maybe that's how the earth speaks. Not in words, but in color, in growth, in return. The ground is full of memory, of fur, of feathers, of bone, of people who laughed, who cried, who held others. And still it doesn't cling. It doesn't grieve like we do. It releases. It welcomes. The soil tells us, you are not waste. You are becoming. Nothing is lost, not really. Death becomes breath. Grief becomes germination. And what we thought was an ending was only the beginning again. Next time you walk barefoot in a garden, remember, you're not stepping on emptiness. You're stepping on eternity. We think of the earth as a surface, something to build on, something to walk over. But maybe it's not just space. Maybe it's time. Beneath your feet, 5 kilometers down, there is life. Not trees, not insects, microbes. Some have barely moved in 1,000 years. They live in heat, in pressure, in silence. Some divide once every 10,000 years. To them, time is something we haven't even begun to measure. Meanwhile, we rush. We schedule. We panic over lost minutes. We say a year is long. But to the soil, a year is nothing. A century is a blink. 1,000 years is a pause between 2 raindrops. Soil builds slowly. A millimeter can take 100 years, which means the ground beneath you could be older than your family line, older than written language. older than the gods we carved from stone. And yet, we treat it like something disposable, like it will always be there. But soil isn't guaranteed. It's not infinite. It's a slow gift we're using up at high speed. So maybe the soil isn't slow. Maybe we're just too fast to notice. And maybe learning to care for the earth begins with learning how to wait, to slow down, to walk softer, to listen for the silence that holds the planet together. Rome didn't fall in a single day. It fell from beneath. The story most people know is war, politics, corruption. But beneath the ruins, the soil was already collapsing. The land fed the empire. The aristocrats were farmers. Their power came from what the earth gave. The Fabius family. They even named themselves after a crop, faba, the bean. But empires get hungry. Forests fell. Fields were overworked. And the soil gave less and less, until one day, the roads outlived the farms they led to. The Maya, brilliant architects, scientists, storytellers, built great cities in the jungle, but they pushed the land too far. Agriculture turned aggressive. Forests were stripped. The soil gave up. And the cities followed. Mesopotamia, the so-called cradle of civilization, fed by rivers, grown by grain. But irrigation without rest left salt in the soil. Slowly, the ground turned sour, and the empire turned to dust. In China, a famine in 1920 took hundreds of thousands of lives, not because of drought, but because the topsoil was already gone, eroded, forgotten, too slowly to see, too late to stop. This isn't just ancient history, it's a pattern. Civilizations rise on soil, and when it dies, they fall. We think we're different, modern, untouchable. But the earth doesn't care about progress. It only asks one question: can you give back what you've taken? And if the answer is no, it waits. And when we're gone, it starts again. There's a number you won't see on your phone. It's not in your calendar, not on a news ticker, but it's counting down. Right now, the United Nations says we may have only 60 harvests left. That's not science fiction. That's 60 seasons of food. And then the soil collapses. Every year we lose 24 billion tons of fertile ground. That's a soccer field gone every 5 seconds. The layer that feeds us, that took centuries to form, is vanishing faster than we can understand it. We try to cover the loss with chemicals, fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, but they don't feed the soil. They bypass it. They keep crops alive while the ground dies underneath. And we compact it with heavy machines, pressing out the air, crushing the breath from the earth. We plant the same crops again and again, and we wonder why nothing feels alive. The collapse isn't loud. It doesn't explode. It doesn't flood. It just stops. Water won't sink in. Roots can't hold, and the harvests get smaller until there are none left. This isn't theory. It's a timeline, a clock, and it's already moving. The only question is, will we notice before it hits zero? Even now, with everything we've done, they're still working. The earthworms, quiet, invisible, ignored, but they haven't stopped. In healthy soil, worms can boost crop yields by 25%. Not with machines, not with chemicals, just by being there, moving, mixing, making space for life. A single acre of living ground holds millions of them, tunneling, turning waste into richness. They are the soil's circulatory system, but even they have limits. When we poison the land with glyphosate, synthetic nitrogen, constant tilling, we silence more than weeds. We silence the workers holding everything together. In one study, worms exposed to herbicides lost their ability to tunnel in just 3 weeks. After that, they stopped reproducing. The world that built ours began to vanish. And still, they try. In backyard compost, in forgotten corners of the forest, in shadows where the soil hasn't given up yet. If you've ever seen a worm twist through compost, you've seen hope. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind. The kind that works while no one's watching. But even hope needs oxygen. Even hope has a threshold. When we talk about climate, we look up. CO2, greenhouse gases, temperatures rising. But maybe we should start by looking down. Soil is the planet's largest land-based carbon sink. It stores more carbon than all the plants and the atmosphere combined. When it's alive, it breathes in. It locks carbon away in roots, fungi, organic matter. But when it's degraded, it exhales. And what it releases accelerates everything. The hotter it gets, the drier the land. The drier the land, the more carbon escapes. A loop, a spiral. Every time we plow too deep, clear too much, poison too far, we're not just harming soil. We're waking up the carbon it was trying to hold for us. And the ones hit hardest? The ones who burn the least. Poorer regions, fragile lands, generations who never asked for this. But there's a way back. If the soil can release carbon, it can take it back. If we let it live. If we stop breaking it open. If we treat it not as a background, but as a body. A living one. Regenerative farming. Composting. Agroforestry. These aren't trends, they're survival. The earth is offering us a truce, but it speaks through the soil. We just have to listen. We've always been told to look up, to reach for the sky, to dream big. But maybe we've been facing the wrong direction. Maybe divinity doesn't live in the clouds. Maybe it waits right beneath us. We treat the word low like a wound. Low class, low life, down in the dirt. But the soil is where everything begins. It's not the bottom, it's the source. Language betrays us. Soiled means stained. Down to earth means unimpressive. But the ground doesn't shame us. We did that, to it, and to ourselves. Meanwhile, the worms keep working. The fungi keep speaking. The roots keep listening. And the soil keeps doing what it's always done. Turn death into life, grief into green. Maybe the final gift of soil isn't food, or carbon, or even survival. Maybe it's perspective. A reminder that we don't need to conquer the earth to belong here. We only need to kneel. To touch the ground is to remember where we come from and where we're going. Not as trash, not as waste, but as offering. So next time you walk across a field or a forest or a forgotten patch of soil, remember, you're not stepping on emptiness. You're stepping on memory, on miracle, on mind. And it's been waiting so patiently for us to finally look down. If this story moved you, if it made you feel something stirring beneath your feet, then don't let it end here. Like the soil, this channel grows from what you give back. So please, like this video, share it, and subscribe for more stories that reconnect us with the living world we're all a part of. And remember, it's not just dirt, it's everything.